Nah, keep it up.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the UGA Sports Call-In Show. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined this week once again by Mr. Jason Butt. We appreciate you having time out of your busy schedule, Jason, to jump on with us again while Trent is still nursing his newborn. I think Trent will be back with us next week, Jason. Lucky for you, your Sunday nights you'll get to spend with your wife. So, well, we do have Jason for another week, so we're going to utilize Jason to the best of our abilities. And what that means is we're going to be talking the Bulldogs mock draft. And the Bulldogs mock draft, we have a mock draft over on UGAsports.com that Patrick Garvin, our team historian and research writer, has compiled together. I think, 4 or 5 different sites, Jason. So we're going to go through those, see where we think guys should land, because the draft is coming up this week. Next time we talk to you next Sunday, all these guys, hopefully, will be on NFL rosters. So we'll talk about that next week. But we'll talk about that, and then also we will get into the Rivals Camp ATL. So ton of Georgia prospects were out there today over at Lambert High School. Myself, Roddy Nabolsi, Jake Roos, and Trent Smallwood, and Patrick Garvin. So there's 5 of us out there. We rolled deep, basketball team style, to the event, and we will talk about some of those prospects. And as always, we'll have Dave McMahon call us in for about 5 minutes of stats. I haven't created a graphic for it yet, Jason. I don't know what to call it, but we will be making Dave his own stat broadcast, something. So, Jason, appreciate you coming on the show with us, man.
Absolutely, man. As always, I'm happy to be here. Anytime you need me to come on, even if it's for 5 minutes, man. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump into the Rivals Camp ATL. Maybe you can send that link to the group for the YouTube. Well, I jump into the Rivals Camp ATL, or Dave can do it. Dave can do it for us. Dave, can you copy over that YouTube link and send it into the group chat so we can get this tweeted out? But today was a big day, guys. Rivals Camp ATL. The Rivals Camp is one of the premier camps. Obviously, it's hosted by our site, so it's great. We get to interview tons of players. We get to interview as many players as possible. We could have interviewed every player out there, but we interviewed all the players that Georgia had interest in, or the players had Georgia interest. And what the takeaway was, Branson Robinson showed up, Jason Butt. Branson Robinson showed up, and he showed out. He looked like Nick Chubb 2.0. I kid you not. He walked up. So if you're not aware of Branson Robinson, running back out of Mississippi, showed up at the Rivals ATL camp, and he was the only guy people were talking about. There were other big-time prospects out there. Oscar Delp was out there, Kojo Antwi. The list goes on and on. A.J. Harris. I mean, tons of guys, man. This guy showed up, Jason, and literally everybody was like, there's Nick Chubb 2.0. And, wow. Jason, I think you got a stat for us about Branson. His deadlifts broke a record. Is that right, Jason?
That is apparently the case, man. What we got? 720 pounds all-time deadlift record in the 220 weight class
in the state of Mississippi. That record has been held for quite some time. He took that record down. He talked in depth to myself and Jake Roos. We're going to have that interview, 8-minute interview. We're going to upload it to YouTube later on this week. He dived deep into a lot of things Georgia, guys. His visit, June 4th through June 6th, his official visit. He said, look, man, I might commit. Wow. It's just that simple. So that'll be
– It's amazing, man, that Georgia, it doesn't matter who because they already have Jordan Bryant-James. And it's like that's a great running back too. And you look at who's on the roster right now, they'll lose a couple guys to graduation. Zamir White, James Cook. Still got Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, Dejon Edwards. It's amazing that this program continues to churn out running backs after running back. And that said, I get it. Like, back in the day, it was a workhorse running back. That's not the case. Normally, you got to have a two-back system, especially now to sell so you can be fresh for the NFL. I mean, this is as much a selling point to a lot of these kids than it is the team wanting to stack talent, because back in the day it was, you're our future back, you're our guy, we're going to go with you. Nowadays, these kids are just as cognizant as to the shelf life of a running back. That second contract is hard to get once those carries pile up. So if you can be like Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, more so Nick Chubb, obviously with what he's been able to do in the NFL, you can be like him where these last 2 years in college he did not get the bulk of carries like he did early on. All of a sudden, you extend that career, that longevity, and then parlay that into being able to attract guys like Branson Robinson after you already have a high profile running back commit. Man, if that kid commits, oh my gosh, dude, it's just this backfield is out of this world right now at Georgia. And then you talk about a guy like him coming in on top. Wow, that's incredible.
So, Jason, kind of what's funny is you were not out there with us today, obviously, but you touched on probably 95% of what Branson touched on. He touched on the two running backs. He touched on already talking to Jordan Bryant James, talking about going to the NFL, keeping the wear off of his legs. I mean, everything that you just touched on, he touches on in that interview. And it was a really great interview. Like I said, we'll have it up over on our UGA Sports YouTube later on this week, but really, really intelligent kid, really smart, he was the guy at this event today. There was no question about it. Everybody was looking at him. Brandon Jacobs was actually the running backs coach at this event. Brandon Jacobs went to Coffeyville Community College, then went to Auburn, then went to Southern Illinois, then went on to win Super Bowls in the NFL. But he's like 6'4", 265 was his playing weight. And I talked to him about Robinson, and he was like, dude, this kid's legit. He's the real deal. And you could see Brandon Jacobs looking at him like, I know you're destined for good things. Here's a couple pointers that can get you there. Yeah, by far, if Dawg fans are looking for that next Nick Chubb, Branson Robinson's it. And to be honest, I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, but I did put my UGA Futurecast in over on his profile just today. So really good kid. A couple other prospects that were there that we got to talk to. Kojo Antwi, we'll have a story up on him later on this week. Georgia, Texas A&M, USC's in there. It's going to be down to the wire on him. Really fast wide receiver, really fast wide receiver, really good hands. And then Oscar Delp, nation's #1 overall tight end out of West Forsyth. I think the Dogs sit in a really good position right there for him. And he makes plays, man. He got open on, I don't know, 4 or 5 one-on-ones where he didn't look like he had that speed that was going to blow you away. He didn't have anything going for him, right? But he got open. Like he was open 3 or 4 steps every time, and he had boundary awareness, keep his feet in bounds. So really good prospect. Unfortunate for us, Gunnar Stockton was not there today. They tried to get him. He didn't show up, unfortunately. But, you know, it is what it is. A lot of good prospects in the 2023 class in the state of Georgia. Again, Jason, Georgia's just loaded, man. I think that is one thing that we've learned since, I don't know, it seems like really that Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields class, ever since then, those guys kind of put Georgia on the map, and they're here to stay now.
It's interesting. I would like to do a case study or just have the time to really delve into what recruiting was at the quarterback position in the state of Georgia from the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and then, of course, as we enter this next decade, because it really, like you said, it really does seem like Georgia is the place for quarterbacks. They're going all over the place. It's not just Georgia's getting a quarterback. It's not like, Jake Fromm, for instance. It's not like, Justin Fields, obviously originally went to Georgia. Trevor Lawrence in on Georgia. They're putting out – it's gone from good quarterbacks to seemingly great and elite quarterbacks every year that are coming out of this state. And that follows the trend that we've seen. Growing up, Georgia was a good state for recruiting, but it wasn't Florida. It wasn't Texas. It wasn't California. Georgia is now I would be willing to bet it's gone from a top 10 recruiting state to a top 3-4 recruiting
probably
state.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, you look at kids coming from Georgia, you have to put them ahead of kids from California. Really, the only state that sticks out that puts out better talent is probably Florida, just population wise. I mean, Georgia for whatever's going on in this state, who knows? It would be a really interesting look as to why and how this state has really put itself on the map as one of the elite recruiting states in the country. Better than the Midwest. Ohio and Pennsylvania were historically good states. No longer. Georgia's putting out better kids. Texas is probably one you look at, but I don't know. You still look at the elite kids from Georgia, and now you're seeing the elite quarterbacks coming from Georgia, and it's impressive. Impressive to see, and obviously when Georgia's able to keep those kids home, that's only better for the Bulldogs moving forward.
Right, and like you said, I think we had, Penn State rivals was out there, Ohio State rivals was out there. I mean, all of the big-time rival sites were out there because everybody's recruiting Georgia. I had a list of names that they printed out where they had the schools next to them. There's 172 kids today just at the rivals camps that had D1 offers.
Wow.
Okay, that's just who was invited today. Obviously, it didn't bring everybody. Gunnar Stockton wasn't there. I mean, the list could go on of the guys who weren't there. 172 kids were there that had D1 offers. Yes, some were from Alabama, some were from Mississippi, but mainly they were all from the state of Georgia. Let me get over to the comments here real quick, Jason. Christy says, "Go Dogs." Hey, Christy. Dave McMahon, what's going on? He says, "Jason Butt again. It's like Christmas in April." That guy says, "Go Dogs." And Martin Arenado says, "Can you speak on five-star talent Clay Webb? I feel he had an impressive film, but hasn't played a snap. Also, Clemson's five-star studded D-line in comparison to Georgia's." I'm guessing he meant to say offensive line there at the end. He just said compared to Georgia's. Or he might be wanting to compare both the D-lines. We could do both. We could do both for you, Martin. As far as Clay Webb, hard worker. I don't know if he's technically been recruited over. I don't know if he has a position. We thought he was going to be a center, right? That didn't work out. Trey Hill manned that position. We thought Trey was going to be a guard. So Trey Hill manned the center position. That kind of left Webb on the outs. Now you have Erickson. You have Van Pran Granger, who you recruited to be a center. So now you have Ratledge, who you thought was going to be a tackle, Jason, and now he's playing guard. So it's just kind of been this weird moving puzzle, I feel like, for Clay Webb, where he just hasn't found his fit yet. Not to say he's bad. By far, one of the best rivals camp offensive linemen I've ever seen. Anybody that went up against him, he'd go up against them with a smile, and then he'd put them on their back. And, that he will go down in history as being that, but his play at Georgia, Jason, I just don't think it's gotten started, and it's not really so much his fault. It's just that there's been so much shuffling around and guys in front of him.
Yeah, I think everybody's been wanting Georgia to chase Alabama, per se. Once Kirby got the recruiting machine going, it's chasing Alabama. What does Alabama do? Rarely does the freshman start. Occasionally They get that guy who steps in right away. But normally, these high four, five-star caliber guys, they're not playing until their third season. And that's kind of what you're starting to see, with some of these Georgia prospects. And a guy like Webb, it's if you don't play early, it doesn't mean it's the end of the road for you. It doesn't mean it's all for naught, but at the same time, you got to watch your shoulder. And yes, you can, like you hinted at, you can be recruited over. I think, with a lot of these guys, on the offensive line, you have so much talent, and really, you mentioned the shuffling. They're just trying to find the five best, and that's really been the philosophy. It's find the five best, plug and play. It's why Jamari Sawyer, who is definitely a better guard, somebody who projects as a guard at the NFL level. That's why he's playing tackle last year. He was one of the five best, and they needed him to play tackle. Trey Hill, they needed him to play center, even though he was a guard coming in. And he turned out to be a pretty good center at that. Tate Ratledge, same deal. They need him at guard. They have a ton of tackles. So, hey, move in. He's pretty good at guard at that. They're finding, there's obviously different techniques and stuff when it comes to going from tackle to guard. End of the day, if you're a good lineman, it's not that difficult to pick it up. So I think, Clay Webb, he's dealing with a ridiculously talented offensive line where, as I agree with Jim Donnan, who said on a recent podcast, the the third team O-line at Georgia would probably be one of the best group of five often like in the American or the MAC or any of those conferences would be up there as one of the better offensive lines in that conference. And then personally, I'll add to that and say Georgia's second team O-line.
We talked about this last week.
Yes, we talked second team O-line is probably on par with most other Power 5 offensive lines in the country. So that's really where Webb's kind of getting in that shuffle. It's not that he's a bad player, but there's a lot of great players on this offensive line. It's hard to separate yourself just in general at the Power 5 level, especially at a program like Georgia. And so, it's not over for him yet, but that's really just where things stand right now. There's just a lot of really great, talented offensive linemen that are getting the job done at the present time. So we'll see how things shake out. There's still a lot of time from now until fall camp, and then on top of that, there's still plenty of time for him to get in the mix and play for Georgia when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So hopefully that answered your question, Martin. We dove deep into that one. Christy, we appreciate you. JC, good evening as well, my friend. He said he went to G-Day, had a great time. That's awesome to hear, man. Guys, as always, we want to know where you're watching us from. Put it in the comments. Little Rock, Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I don't know why I said 2 Arkansas back to back. Honolulu, Hawaii. You can lie to us. It's cool. Let us know, make up a place. But put it in the comments, man. We want to know where you guys are from. And then also, if you have any questions, the line's always open, 706-363-3773. We'll have Dave McMahon join us here just in a few. We're going to talk about this mock draft first before we have Dave join us. But John Anthony says Darnell is going to punish some DBs this season. Yeah, I could definitely see that, John, for sure. Christy says they asked about the Chubb cereal. Did you see that?
I saw that in passing. Yeah, he got his own cereal deal.
Yeah, he got his own cereal deal, and it's only going to be sold in stores up in Cleveland. Yeah. So what I'm thinking about doing, I have family up in Cleveland. My wife's family is up in Cleveland, is getting them to send me a few boxes, and then maybe us do a giveaway on the show.
That would be great.
Pretty cool, right? Yeah. So I'm working on getting some Chubb Crunch, Christy, for us when it comes out in stores, because I think they're going to have a ton of it up there, but folks would love to have it down here. So I'm going to try to get a couple boxes, one for the office because I have like memorabilia. You can't see it, but I have memorabilia over on this side. So one for the office and then one for maybe a giveaway. We'll do a Chubb Crunch giveaway. You can't eat them. I wouldn't eat them though.
You got to get me one too.
Okay, I got you, big dog. I got you for the two fill-in shows or 3 now, whatever.
I'll pay for it,
yeah, I'll that's how I'll pay you. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get some Chubb Crunch for you guys. So if you take anything away from this call-in show, it's that I am going to try to get some Chubb Crunch. I will text my folks in just a few minutes after the show and see if they can't get us some Chubb Crunch. Christy, do you know when it's coming out? I know we've gotten completely off track here. Christy, do you know when it comes out so I can give them a heads up to get it for me? If you can put that in the chat. Christy says she's watching from Marietta, Georgia. John Adams, Coral Gables, Florida. John Anthony, Dawg fan in Dalton, Georgia. And let's see. Yeah, I think we got all of them. Guys, if you're watching, comment where you're watching us from. Jason, the draft is upon us, my man.
Yeah, man.
It's one of my favorite pastimes, okay? My wife hates it because now it's turned into like a 3-day event, dude.
Right.
Or is it's still 3, right? It's not 4.
3
okay.
days. It'll probably be a full week at a certain point, yeah.
So, but okay, before we get on to the draft, Christy said this fall Chubb Crunch is coming out. So by the fall, we'll have some Chubb Crunch. I can promise you that. Martin said, thanks for the answer. The reason I ask about the D-line is because it seems like every guy they have is a former 5-star with 2 seniors on the edges. Yeah, Clemson's got a good defensive line, man. Before we get into this draft stuff real quick, Jason.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about
Clemson. We did, and I feel bad because we didn't answer the second part of the question. Clemson has a great defensive line. The first game is going to be a battle that you haven't seen in a long time because both teams know what they're fighting for. Both teams are fighting for a potential undefeated record, right? This is the game that stands in one of these teams' ways to do that. If you look at both schedules, they both line up for after this game, both teams to run the table. So they know what's at stake. At the same time, I'm not necessarily scared of Clemson's defensive line. I really like Georgia's offensive line if they can find the right five. Okay, and we saw on G-Day, we talked about it last week, Jason. I didn't like the tackles on Team 1. I liked the guards. I didn't like the guards on Team 2. I liked the tackles. So I want to see how that meshes. Brian Breesy for Clemson, he was a freshman last year. He's going to be a sophomore this year, is a problem. Okay, Miles Murphy from Georgia, it was a freshman last year. He's going to be a problem. But at the same time, I don't see that defensive line being the same defensive line that Clemson had, where it had Christian Wilkins and all those guys on it, right? So
it's not the Power Rangers line. They call themselves the Power Rangers when those four got Cleveland Ferrell and blanking on the fourth guy. It's a really good Clemson D line. Don't get me wrong. And they're going to obviously bring pressure elsewhere too with the Venables. Clearly, they want to. They're going to try to disrupt JT Daniels. JT Daniels not a guy who's going to try and move around. He is who he is. He is really, really good at what he does. Sitting in the pocket. Moving a little bit to buy some time inside the pocket, and delivering vertical down the field. So that offensive line's got to make sure, especially on the edges, it's got to make sure that it's in good pass protection. I think, like you mentioned on Team 1, on the red team, the tackles, Nolan Smith got after it. You like to see that defensively. You don't like to see that if you're offensive line. If you're thinking about JT Daniels moving forward, but at the same time, you look at the talent there, it's still very much a mix and match period right now. I don't think that the line that we saw at G-Day will be the number one offensive line that comes out against Clemson. Jamari Sawyer obviously is going to be there, and honestly, I could still see him if the tackle situation doesn't separate accordingly. I could still see Sawyer working in there. It's not something they want necessarily. They want Sawyer at guard. But
they really like Mims too, and Mims has only been on campus, Jason, when
right.
G-Day happened for like 3 months.
That's something that I could see.
Do you start Mims? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you start Mims' first game against Clemson? I know they love him, right? And he's getting.
If they come to, I hate to say it like that, but you don't do it. You're obviously not thinking about that right now because you don't take anything that happened in spring practice and use it towards depth chart positioning for week 1. You're waiting until these guys come back. They're obviously going to go through the summer workouts, but then when they get into fall camp, that's when you start, after those first couple of weeks of practice, that's when you start making your depth chart evaluations and where you start penciling guys. It reminds me of Andrew Thomas when he got here as a freshman, and he was at right tackle for that entire.
I think it was the whole. It was the whole season, wasn't it?
Or was it? I think he was at. Was he at guard?
No. He was at right tackle. He was at right tackle.
What I'm saying is, in practice, he was.
Oh yeah.
Practice, and then it wasn't until that the last 2 weeks or the final week is when they moved him to right tackle, and that's where he ended up playing the whole year. So what I'm saying is that they'll keep doing that sort of thing, and when you think you have to figure it out, all of a sudden a guy gets moved, and
the old Kirby just under the rug, man.
Exactly. And so the evaluations are far from over. Mims is a great example of that, because it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see Mims, whether he starts repping first team right tackle or his second team the entire time, and then all of a sudden you're a week out of Clemson or 2 weeks out of Clemson, and then he's getting first team reps at left tackle. Would not surprise me in the least, just because fall camp is really when they're going to start throwing everything at these guys, and then 2-3 weeks in, you're expected to be ready for game time if you're good enough, and if and obviously if you're good enough.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? But you're expected to play, if you are regarded that highly, and so I think Mims, the word on him has been exceptional, very exceptional so far. So it would not surprise me if he's that late move in camp, and that would shake everything up on the line too. You move somebody different to left tackle all the way down. Sawyer left guard, which is where they want him. Schaefer probably right guard. You never know. Ratledge could end up. There's so many options right now. I think with this offensive line, to where I'm not particularly worried. Like you said, going into Clemson, it is a matter of they got to get the right five, regardless of position, the right five, and they need not overthink it. Just don't think it. You got plenty of talent to work with. Put the best five together and let them go to work.
Christy said, have a good night, y'all. Be safe and go Dogs. We appreciate you, Christy. Have a good night yourself. Let's see. Mike Jones said he's watching from Jacksonville, Florida. JC from Jessup, Georgia. Martin Arenado from Omega, Georgia. Martin, where is Omega, Georgia? Put that in the chat for me, man. I have no idea. Brett Weimer, St. Mary's, Georgia. John Adams talking about Branson Robinson. He says, Nick was strong and ridiculously fast. Branson, elite strong. How does his speed compare to Chubb? Do we know? He has great speed, okay? I saw him doing some bag work today, some drills before they went to one-on-ones. Incredible feet. I really do believe he's Nick Chubb 2.0, John Adams. So just to give you an idea on that. And then he says, the team that holds the ball less between Clemson and Georgia going to have an advantage, whether they can run a little or air it out fastest. I could see that. I could also see it the other way around. You keep your defense as fresh as possible. One thing I was going to point out before we go to the draft stuff, Jason, was against Clemson, I could really see James Cook coming out of the backfield as being like that pressure valve for JT if that defensive line becomes a factor. Like we talked about, if we can't find a rhythm with the O-line or Georgia can't get the five guys they want out there, you kind of could use James Cook in that pressure valve, release off the edge type situation. That was my thought on that.
You would hope, and here's the thing, if Clemson's going to get pressure, you would hope that they have to send five to do it. They're not just getting a four-man rush. And so
you would hope.
If they start having to send five, James Cook as a receiver, really all those guys, though. Zamir White showed in G-Day, he's clearly been working on his receiving game. Kendall Milton's a good receiver. Whatever running back. But obviously James Cook has the ability. He can go vertical. He can do all sorts of things. But if Clemson starts having to send an extra guy, I think the running back out of the backfield is going to be huge. And something I wanted to piggyback off of what you just said, given what Todd Monken did in the big games last year in terms of game plan, I fully expect it to be a track meet week one. I really don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they're going to sit on the ball and try to limit possessions or any of that. I think it's very much going to be
score if you can. Let's go score and score some more. Let's see here. Stacy Gobble, excuse me if I just butchered your last name, Stacy, says Tennessee fans are as delusional as ever. They have a spring game and they won. Now they're going to – I can't even read the rest of the comment, man. Okay. Tennessee fans are delusional as ever. They have a spring game and they won, ... Now they're going to win the SEC. Unbelievable. Checking in from Waycross. Stacy, that made me laugh. I appreciate that. Martin says, Omega, Georgia is 9 miles south of Tifton, Jason, 45 miles north of Valdosta. So, and then Mitchell Fletcher came in and said, man, I've missed a few in a row live. Just getting on. Yeah, Mitchell, where the hell you been, bud? Appreciate you. Anyways, let's get over to this mock draft thing we have on UGA Sports. See if I can do this right. Boom, look at that. Man. Technology, folks. Technology. So now, Jason, we're live right next to this mock draft here that is so pretty on my screen. I don't want to mess it up. I am going to try to click over here, guys. Okay, we're good. Because I can see better on my big monitor than I can on this little tiny screen here, guys. So this is going to be, I'm going to try to highlight it for you guys. This is from Patrick Garvin. He does an amazing job for us, like we said earlier. Draft Tech, Lines, Walter Football, CBS Sports, and Sporting News. So these are 5 mock drafts that Patrick pulled from. First guy off the list, Azeez Ojulari. All 5 of them have him as a first-round pick. But Draft Tech and Lines, as you can see here, have Tyson Campbell as a first-round pick getting drafted before Azeez, which begs the question, I think I put it in the YouTube comment, is which dog gets drafted first? Jason, who you have?
Azeez Ojulari, 100%.
So this isn't a debate.
Yeah, Azeez Ojulari. I think he has a chance to go top 20. I think it's one of those things where at the edge rusher position, there's so much unknown with a lot of these guys. You've got Penn State's Jason Owe, a freak athlete who put up crazy measurables. He had 0 sacks last year at Penn State. I think that's going to be a head scratcher. Kwity Paye is probably the best. I don't want to say that
I'm not a fan of him, though, to be honest. I'm not a fan of his game.
Sure.
That's just me.
But he and Azeez Ojulari are probably the two guys who you don't have questions about out of this draft class. Jalen Phillips.
True.
Phillips, a one-year wonder at Miami. Gregory Rousseau opted out. There's another guy I'm missing right now. But there's the point is a lot of these pass rushers that are in the upper tier per se, really Azeez Ojulari, Kwity Paye are the two guys who you're not really concerned about. You saw them play in 2020. They had moments. Michigan was just a total what this year.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's probably. I was gonna say. I was thinking 2 terms with expletives.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep it PG tonight, but
right.
Azeez Ojulari, and especially Azeez Ojulari finishing strong with a 3-sack game against Cincinnati. I really think that he can be, as these teams have kind of sifted through their edge rusher evaluations in a class that nobody's really excited about. There's really nobody you're expecting to go in the top 10 or really even the top 15. I think somebody could slide into the 11 to 15 spot. Ojulari, I think a 3-4 team in that range. He's not a put your hand in the dirt 4-3 D end. He's only 240.
Right.
So you're looking at a stand-up edge guy. I think anywhere between 15 and 25. I really think he's got a shot to go somewhere. Tyson Campbell, honestly, I think Eric Stokes gets drafted ahead of Tyson Campbell. So
you are going against the grain of 4 of the 5 mock drafts, which is not to say it's a bad thing. These mock drafts are very rarely right. I think Mel Kiper last year in his first round, I think he had like 3 out of 32 teams right, guys. So it's really just a crapshoot. This is all for fun. It does give you an idea sort of where prospects should be. But so you say Stokes before Campbell, and we talked about that before the show, and all it takes is one. That's like the saying in the NFL, right, for these prospects. All it takes is one team to fall in love with you. We saw it with the Raiders for so many years when Al Davis was in charge over there. If you ran a fast 40 time, you were getting drafted by the Raiders, and you were getting drafted in like the 2nd round. You were a 7th round pick, and they're like, the guy's reading the card up at the prompter. He's like, Jason Butt? Yeah, okay. And then like they go to the ESPN guys. They're like, all right, we got a kid out of Montana, ran a 4.22. He had 130 receiving yards his entire career. They just drafted him in the 2nd round. So like all it takes is one team, dude. Yeah. And so I think that's the debate with Eric Stokes is all it takes is one team. Moving past those top 3 guys, Jason, which I think we can both agree those are the top 3 guys, Azeez, Tyson, and Eric.
Right.
The order of those guys could be flip-flopped. I do agree with you. Azeez should be the first guy off the board for the Dogs, and probably is going to be the only first-rounder, I would imagine, for the Dogs, unless a team falls in love with Campbell or Stokes. Let's see here. We're getting comments. Are they talking about the draft? We're talking about the draft now, guys. What are we talking about? No, I'm kidding. We can answer other questions, too. Let's see. John Adams says, who wins a tug of war, Georgia's D-line or Clemson's? I could not be happier Jordan Davis coming back. If you did not get excited about Devontae Wyatt, you will be this year. Real quick, Jason, who wins that tug of war? I think Georgia. Jordan Davis, dude?
Georgia, between Jordan Davis,
Devontae Wyatt,
and then
Jalen Carter.
I mean, you talk about 3 guys right there. I think that's yeah. I mean, I know we sound like homers being guys that cover Georgia, but I think Georgia's D-line wins that.
Yeah. Let's see. Teddy Belcher, 4K Ultra Wide 21.9. That's a heck of a username. Says, what's this about the man with the muscles from Brussels? What? Oh, is it because it's like Germantown is where Branson Robinson?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's
okay, I could dig that. I do like that. Yeah, the man with muscles from Brussels is a real deal, man. He's a real deal. I think Georgia has a legit shot at landing him. June 4th through June 6th is going to be his official visit, and he said He could commit anytime after that. Guys, we've got an 8-minute YouTube video. Jake Roos interviewed him. I stood there and, held the camera, but I was part of it. Okay, so when we upload it, I'm gonna edit in there somewhere that I was a part of it. But he talked in depth about that. He talked in depth about looking up to Herschel Walker, doing his workouts. Tons of stuff, guys. Tons of stuff in there. Let's see. What is this show about? I don't think Teddy Belcher knows what this show is about. He said, what is this show about? Bengals game is the best. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't talking about Branson Robinson, but if he was, from Germantown, the man with muscles from Brussels, I don't know what that is, but it could have gone together. Whatever. Let's see. John Adams said Claude Van Damme. Is that a reference for him? I don't know, man. We're getting off topic here. All right, anyways. The three guys, Aziz, Tyson, and Eric up top. This draft seems to think, according to the draft board, Monty Rice and Ben Cleveland, then Richard LeCount, Trey McKitty, Trey Hill, DJ Daniel, Malik Herring, Mark Webb. So you got uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez, once, 11. you saw that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Record 8, by the way.
I was going to say, I was just about to throw that to you. What is it, 8?
8. 2002 and 2013, they had 8 guys in each of those drafts.
So looking at this draft board, let's just go through it to see if we can get to 8 realistically. You've got the top 3 for sure.
I think you got 5.
Monty Rice 4, Ben Cleveland 5. After that,
I think Richard LeCount definitely gets drafted. I think he's 4th, 5th round. Yeah.
Okay, so then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Trey Hill, dude, Walter Football has Trey Hill in the 2nd round to Kansas City.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because you don't really draft, unless you are, Michigan had a center, what's his name? The guy that the Saints drafted in the 1st round. There's very few, I remember Travis Frederick was a 1st round pick as a center. It's just not often that happens. So now you're talking about 2nd round. You still don't really – you're talking about usually the first 2 rounds at most 1 center per round. You don't really see centers till the 3rd, 4th. The Falcons last year, they took their center in the 3rd round, which was kind of – and he was the 2nd center off the board if memory serves correct.
Who was it again?
Matt Hennessy, the center from Temple.
Is he going to start? I know you're off your Atlanta beat now, but is he going to start at center now that Mac's gone?
Yeah, he'll be
okay.
Yeah,
okay. So sorry to get you off there.
Oh, you're good.
That was for me.
But because he went behind. No, he was 2nd because Cushenberry went shortly after him. It's the guy I can't think of his name, the Michigan center. But anyway, so that's
Cesar Ruiz.
Yeah, Ruiz. Yeah. And that's the that's the point I'm getting at is that centers to see Trey Hill with a 2nd round mock there. That's pretty wild. You just don't see that.
Right.
But
I thought it was too.
Trey Hill. But we said earlier, Trey Hill can play guard, and that kind of versatility. And he played well at guard when he played guard. That could bode well. In Kansas City, the team that's mocked to, they need versatile linemen. Any team that needs versatile linemen, but you're talking about an interior player. It wouldn't surprise me to see Trey Hill go in the between 3 and 5.
I would take Trey Hill to be a guard. I would.
Yeah, I think, and he has the ability to play center. So take him 3 and 5.
Okay, so now you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you've got 7. You've got 7. Who's your 8th?
Yeah,
my 8th. See, my 8th. My 8th is DJ Daniel, Jason, and the reason being he had a killer Senior Bowl. For whatever reason, programs look into that Senior Bowl stuff pretty heavily.
Sure, yeah. But so did Trey McKitty. Trey McKitty had a great Senior Bowl too. But
yeah,
I think DJ Daniel has a chance because corners just get the volume. I think it was 27 corners last year got drafted. Tight ends, I don't know. I don't know how many tight ends got drafted last year. You're obviously gonna see a lot more corners get drafted than tight ends. So, I look here and I see Trey McKitty with 5th round, 3rd round, 5th round, 4th round. That's great. I hope that's the case for him. But that's just a position that doesn't get selected nearly receivers, running back. No, I don't know what I'm saying. Running backs, cornerbacks, receivers, edge rushers, D linemen. So we'll see. I like G. Daniel as number 8 also.
One thing I will say, Jason, is I found this stat on a tweet, and it was talking about how many players are actually in the draft pool, right?
Yeah.
And so previous years, I think it's gotten up to 1,700 players, I want to say, or 1,100. I can't remember. Don't quote me. But this year, only 657. There's 11 Georgia prospects.
Yeah.
So it's by far, with everybody being able to transfer, right, and go and use an extra year of eligibility, this year only has a little bit over 600 prospects to choose from, which is more than half, at least more than half. I wish I could find the tweet. Might be closer to a third of the prospect pool for NFL teams to pick out of. So they might be going with a go with what you know. They know Kirby's got a good program type deal. And so
the FCS didn't start playing until now. So
right, right.
And you also have so many players who didn't play this year. You have the lost scouting from not being able to travel, not being able to evaluate in person at the combine. They got to go to pro days. Now that was really it. That's the only opportunity that a lot of these NFL personnel got. So that's a big.
And at Georgia's pro day, you got to see all 11 of these guys. Well, minus Malik, but so you got to see all of them. Whereas, smaller schools, normally those guys get a chance. 1 or 2 guys maybe didn't hold a pro day this year. Georgia did. That could help them. So for me, I see it going above the 8. I do see it going above the 8. I don't know if all 11 of these guys get drafted. I don't see a spot for Mark Webb to get drafted. And I also, with Malik's injury, I could see a team definitely taking Malik as an undrafted free agent, but using a pick on him, I don't see that because that guarantees money, things of that nature, as you well know, whereas an undrafted free agent doesn't.
Yeah, McKitty would be the 9th guy, I think. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see. I mean, McKitty, you mentioned Daniel's Senior Bowl. McKitty's Senior Bowl really helps him because McKitty at Florida State and Georgia was not a receiving tight end, even though he had he has the skill set to do it. It's just never been anything really he has to do. I mean, he came from a program that we've seen implode in recent years, and which has been just startling, honestly. And then at Georgia this year, he dealt with some injuries early on, and he was a fine blocker. Don't get me wrong. And that stuff goes a long way more than people think. He can be kind of a move tight end who primarily blocks. And, he's a guy who's versatile enough to line up at other spots, but you run the ball and you can get him out in front and get a hat on a hat. But at the Senior Bowl, he showed off his receiving skill set, and I think for especially more than previous years, if you were in one of those All-Star games, the Senior Bowl being the best one, that's just a huge advantage based on all the limited scouting opportunities teams have. So yeah, Trey McKitty very, very well could be that 9th guy, and he and DJ Daniel, I think, will be battling it out for the 8th Bulldog selected.
So Dave McStats, if you're out there, call us in, big dog. We're ready for you. But we're going to take some questions while Dave's giving us a buzz. Mitchell Fletcher says, is Trey possible? Oh, let me see. He was typing too fast. Mitchell was typing too fast. He said, is Trey moving to guard possible? Which we answered literally right after he said that. And then he said, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Not knocking him, but he had his ups and downs. Snapping last year. Slide him over to guard and let him focus it on the NFL. I agree. And John Adams says, this will be a big draft by numbers, but what I would expect next year to be even better for the Dogs. We can get to that, John. I think this is Dave giving us a call. Let's get him.
All right.
Dave, what's going on, man? Dave, you with us?
I am with you guys. How are you?
What's up,
Good, Dave? Good, Dave. We got you live on air, man. We're going over, as you well know, you were watching, going over this NFL mock draft tracker that Patrick Garvin so graciously put together for us over on UGASports.com to put 5 mock drafts together. And I talked to you before the show, said, hey, man, we're going to be talking about the draft. Could you pull some cool stats out of you-know-where? And I think you got some.
I got very confused when you said about the draft, and I was looking up all about 18-year-olds, about Vietnam, about when they got to leave to go there, and I got so into it, and now you confused me completely.
You were drafted to Vietnam, weren't you, Dave?
Exactly. I was only 14 back then, so I couldn't get in.
Okay.
Darn.
So, I know. All right. So, obviously, you guys mentioned about the 8 draft picks for Georgia is the most back in 2002 and 2013. Georgia's had 7 last year and 7 the year before. I still think within the next 2 or 3 years, Georgia will have 10. That is my prediction. Georgia will have a year that they'll have 10 people picked. They just have so much talent that it would not surprise me if they got 10 one of these years. Not this year. This year, I think you guys are on the ball with about 6 or so, maybe 7. I could see that. Georgia's also had 6 first-round draft picks in the last 3 years. It's the most they've had in that 3-year stretch. They had those 3 a few years ago, which is the most they've ever had in one draft, 3 first-round picks. It's not going to happen this year. The 2 that you see, maybe 3 you see somewhere around, obviously Ojulari, Campbell, and Stokes. Ojulari is the most likely one, like Jason says. I do also think he's also going to be the first Georgia player taken. He's just so much talent and so much speed and strength, and he's the real deal for that kind of pick. The last linebacker pick taken in first round for Georgia was Roquan Smith, 2018, to the Bears. For the last, I guess, edge rusher, you might say, Leonard Floyd, 2016. He was the 9th overall pick for that. And Leonard Floyd last year started playing pretty good.
He did. He got himself a big contract out of it, at least.
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of these guys like for. They like the contract. And if you think Campbell or Stokes going to be a first-round pick, well, the last first-round pick for Georgia from a corner was DeAndre Baker back in 2019. But before that, the last time a first-round draft pick for Georgia was Champ Bailey back in 1999.
I would have gotten that. Had you asked that as a trivia question, I would have got you on that, Dave.
You would have got that? Okay.
Yeah, I would have. I would have.
D-line, Dave. The last first rounder from the D-line.
Oh, don't go there, Jason. Jason, you shouldn't have.
Well, no, I mean, we already know just draft pick in general. What is it, 2012 or 2013?
The last one over was 2013 was with John Jenkins.
Yeah.
And the last first round.
I can't remember.
Is it Pollock?
He was second round, if I remember correctly.
No, Pollock was a first rounder.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it probably was David Pollock. Although that's even a kind of a stretch because Pollock was, I believe, more lined up as a linebacker in the NFL.
Oh, Dave, give it to me, Dave. Come on.
But he was drafted at.
He was D-line coming out of college. So
he was.
Yeah.
He was D lineman coming out of college, is what Jason said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's correct. He is correct there. If you want to go with that stuff.
3-4. Bengals had 4. So yeah, he was definitely a backer.
Yeah, and if you want to go with that kind of route, like Thomas Davis was also a defensive back selected by Georgia in the first round, from Georgia in the first round, but then he was mostly a linebacker in the NFL. Yeah. So if you want to go defensive backwards.
He was a huge safety as it was in college.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the 3 teams that I really wish to draft Georgia players just for fun's sake. I wish the Texans could do one. Why? Because Texas only has drafted 1 Georgia Bulldog in the history, and that's Ben Jones, and back in 2012. You think
I would have gotten that. I would have gotten that too, Dave. Just so you know.
And the Texans need everything, so pretty much.
They do.
Okay. Originally, I was going to say that the Jaguars need a Bulldog, but I really don't want any Bulldogs playing for Urban Meyer. So, but can you name the last Jaguar player to be drafted by a Bulldog?
Who? Ooh.
You guys know everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Was he drafted by?
I don't think he was drafted. Jason said Avery Jones?
Avery Jones? No, he was not drafted.
Yeah, he wasn't drafted. Oh, goodness. Last guy drafted by the Jaguars, it was a Bulldog. Can you give me kind of a year, Dave? Because I don't know.
It was 2001.
Okay, I'm not. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Marcus Stroud.
Stroud.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And before that was Murray Leroy. So, I mean, yeah, so they won defensive tackles. They know all about that. But I really do not want any Bulldogs to play for Urban Meyer because Urban Meyer is like we can't really say on the show, I don't think. Well, maybe we can. Okay, and here's the one I really would like. And I'm glad I caught myself. I was about to say the San Diego Chargers, and I know it's the LA Chargers now.
I still say San Diego. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But you also say you don't say the R word for the Washington team, do you?
Do the football team, Dave.
Of course not. Washington
exactly.
Football team, Dave. Get with the times.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So the LA Chargers. Paul Oliver was a supplemental pick in 27. But that doesn't count. So the last time the Chargers drafted in the regular NFL draft was way back in 1977.
Dang.
That's quite a while ago. And you probably won't get the players.
I remember doing that. I did that story. My first UGASports.com story was a draft related thing. I can't remember the player.
Mitchell. Real quick, Mitchell Fletcher in the chat had Paul Oliver in the supplemental draft. Congrats on that, Mitchell, but it does not count because of supplemental draft. Dave, back to you.
Should we I should ask a really tough trivia question on Nick Chubb and the winner. That's the winner gets the cereal, by the way.
Yeah. Just something like more present. This like past 2005 stuff. I was like, I was too tiny.
It's gonna be a Nick Chubb related question.
It's Nick Chubb.
Yeah. Once we get to that point, yes, definitely, we need a Nick Chubb trivia question.
Okay, so 1977. This player was involved with a very famous Larry Munson call.
Was it Appleby? Was it Richard Appleby?
It was the other guy. It was Gene Washington.
Washington. Oh.
Yep. Washington.
Dave strikes again.
Gene and I believe I tried to count them really quick. And I might have messed up because I was counting really quick right during the show. I believe 186 players have been drafted since the last time the Chargers took up 186 players from Georgia have been drafted in the NFL draft since.
That's kind of crazy. That's really crazy.
Yeah.
Like, are the Chargers just not looking at Georgia? I mean, I don't know. That's wild.
They're far away from Athens, but that's no excuses.
It's just, I mean, it's just nobody's looking at a team and saying, I got to get players from that team. They're just doing all their evaluations and just it's all chance at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's all about that. Well, I appreciate your show with the mock draft, and that was pretty exciting news about Branson Robinson. Although I don't know if you saw my message, Brussels is in Belgium, not in Germany.
Yeah, I figured that out. Yeah, he was here. Apparently, that guy was here because he's a Bearcats fan, and so he subscribed to watch highlights from the Sugar Bowl. So, but yeah, I figured that out. But I kind of wanted to push it together. I don't know. It made sense at the time, Dave. But as always, Dave, appreciate you coming on and spitting some facts for us. Next week, let's see if we can come back, talk a little bit about the draft, and see if Chargers will draft somebody since 1977.
Yeah, the draft itself, and also one quick message about I want to say something about baseball. They won 2 out of 3, and they have Georgia Tech next. So let's go Dogs in baseball.
There you go. Dave McMahon, folks. Dave McMahon. We appreciate Dave McMahon jumping on with us every week to give us his stats of the week, guys. So if you guys have any more questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. I think we're almost done with this one. Jason, what's your total guys getting drafted this weekend? Georgia, final answer.
7.
Regis Philbin, 7.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Man, I see 8, dude. I see 8.
You got Daniel as 8, right?
I have Daniel as my 8th, yes.
Yeah, so I've got I don't have Daniel and I don't have McKitty, but I do have Trey Hill.
I have Trey Hill. So I have Aziz, Tyson, Eric, Monty, Ben as 5, LeCount 6, Trey Hill 7, DJ 8. That's my 8. So, guys, Georgia has a chance to beat its record. 8 players drafted, and guarantee you will see it on social media if they get over 8 from every Georgia Bulldogs Twitter account possible, Instagram, everything. They will shout this thing from the rooftops that they had 9 or more players drafted. But we'll see what happens, guys. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to go back to the main screen over here for a second. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Jason, as always, love having you on, man, and filling in for us. Hope everything is well on the home front for you this week, man. And I'm just going to be sitting in my chair Thursday through Saturday, man, seeing where these Dogs get drafted, seeing who my Falcons pick. Oh, real quick before we go, who the Falcons drafted for, Jason?
Oh, man, I think if Justin Fields is there, that's the guy.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. The hometown boy from Harrison High School making his return back as the prodigal son to lead the Falcons to
see what San Francisco does. That's the wild card. Mac Jones is apparently the guy, but I don't. Who knows?
Dude, man, I could not do.
Fields is there at 4, man. That's.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of
Fields
stuff
is
there for.
If Fields is at 4. If I'm the Falcons, I'm taking him. I'm a new head coach, new GM. That's our guy. We're going in with him. So, guys, thanks as always for watching, man. We appreciate you each and every week. We'll be back next week, 7:30. If Trent's on time, might be 8. Who knows? Trent's got a baby, so we'll be on with you guys. As always, Paul Maharry. I always do this wrong, Jason. I do the little finger point, but it's this way. So, Jason Butt over here, guys. Thank you again so much. Take care.